I came home expecting one thing and walked straight into hell. My name is Daniel Garcia, and I'm 38 years old. Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army, 15 years of honorable service. I'd just finished 9 months in the Middle East, dodging IEDs and watching friends die. And all I wanted was to hold my son Tyler for the first time. 3 months old, and I'd only seen him through video calls and photos. Instead, I walked through my front door at 14:30 hours on a Tuesday and found a stranger sitting on my couch. Kevin Sanders, holding my baby. My wife Jasmine stood by the window like it was the most natural thing in the world. That's when I knew. That cold, sick knowledge that splits your life into before and after. I didn't break down. I didn't retreat. I went to war. I used every bit of discipline the Army taught me and systematically destroyed them both. Legally, financially, completely. Some people say revenge is wrong, that I should have taken the high road. But when someone destroys your family, you make sure they face consequences. Real ones. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I came through my front door at 14:30 hours on a Tuesday in March, duffel bag over my shoulder thinking about holding my son. 9 months I'd been gone. 9 months of sand and heat and watching good men get blown apart by roadside bombs. 9 months of video calls where Jasmine held Tyler up to the camera and I pretended it was enough. I expected chaos, the good kind. Jasmine throwing herself at me, Tyler crying in the background, the beautiful mess of homecoming. Instead, I got silence. Then laughter. A man's voice I didn't recognize. My chest tightened. I dropped the duffel and walked toward the living room, every nerve suddenly alert. Combat instinct doesn't just shut off because you're stateside. He was sitting on my couch, some guy in his 30s, clean cut, wearing khakis and a polo shirt like he'd just come from brunch, and he was holding my son. My 3-month-old son who I'd never held, never touched, never even been in the same room with. Jasmine stood by the window. When she saw me, all the color drained from her face. "Daniel?" She said it like a question. Like she wasn't sure I was real. The guy looked up at me and smiled. Actually smiled. Like I was interrupting his afternoon. "Who the hell are you?" My voice came out flat, controlled. The kind of calm that comes right before violence. He stood up, still holding Tyler. "I'm Kevin. I'm a friend of Jasmine's. Put my son down." "Daniel, wait." Jasmine started. "I said put my son down. Now." Kevin glanced at Jasmine, like he needed permission. That look told me everything I needed to know. My hands clenched into fists. He set Tyler in the bassinet carefully, taking his time. Probably thought it would calm me down. It didn't. The second Tyler was safe, I closed the distance in 3 steps. "Daniel, stop!" Jasmine moved between us, hands up. "Just listen." "How long?" I stared past her at Kevin. He'd backed against the wall. "Good. How long have you been sleeping with my wife?" "It's not like that," Jasmine said, her voice breaking. "It just happened. You were gone and I was alone and you decided to bring him into my house? Let him hold my son?" I laughed, but there wasn't anything funny about it. "Is Tyler even mine?" "Of course he's yours." Jasmine was crying now. "Daniel, Tyler is yours. Kevin and we only started after Tyler was born. I was struggling and you weren't here, and I wasn't here because I was deployed, serving my country, sending money home to support you and our baby." I looked at Kevin. "Did she tell you that? Did she tell you that while you were playing house with my family, I was dodging IEDs and watching friends die?" Kevin shifted uncomfortably. "Look, man, I didn't know about you at first." She said. "I don't care what she said." I stepped closer. He flinched. "You're in my house, you held my son, you slept with my wife, and you think anything you say matters to me?" "Daniel, please." Jasmine grabbed my arm. I shook her off. "Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again." I turned back to Kevin. "You've got 60 seconds to get out before I put you through that wall." "You can't threaten me," Kevin started. "That wasn't a threat. That was a promise." 50 seconds. Jasmine stepped between us again. "He's not going anywhere until we talk about this." "Talk?" I stared at her. "You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk about how you destroyed our marriage. Let's talk about how you let another man into our home, into our bed while I was overseas. Let's talk about how you made me a joke, the deployed soldier whose wife couldn't keep her legs closed for 9 months. She slapped me. Hard. The sound cracked through the room. I didn't move, didn't even blink, just looked at her with dead eyes. That's all you've got? After what you did, that's your response? Kevin made a move toward me. Don't talk to her like... I grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. Not hard enough to really hurt him, not yet, but hard enough to make my point crystal clear. You don't get to defend her. You don't get to play hero. You're the homewrecker, and if you don't get out of my house right now, I will break every bone in your body. Daniel, let him go! Jasmine was screaming, pulling at me. I held Kevin there another 5 seconds, watching the fear flood his eyes, then released him. He stumbled toward the door, gasping. Jasmine followed him. Where are you going? Jasmine, we should... Kevin started. Pack a bag while you're at it, I said to her. You're not staying here tonight. She spun around. This is my house too. No, this is the house I've been paying for while you played house with him. You're done. Both of you are done. Kevin was already out the door. Jasmine lingered, looking at Tyler in the bassinet, then back at me. We need to talk about custody. Get out. Tyler is my son. Get out. I said it with such finality that she actually backed up. Get out now or I call the MPs and tell them what I walked in on. Your choice. She left. I heard her car start, heard her drive away. The house went quiet. I walked over to the bassinet and looked down at Tyler. 3 months old, sleeping peacefully through the whole disaster. He had Jasmine's nose, my chin. He was perfect. I picked him up carefully, held him against my chest. He stirred but didn't wake, just settled against me with a tiny sigh. And I made him a promise right there, silent and absolute. I would burn their world down for this. Every bit of it. The next morning at 0800 hours, I made 2 phone calls. First call went to my older brother Magnus. He was a family law attorney in Denver, sharp as a scalpel and twice as ruthless in the courtroom. I need you, I said when he picked up. It's bad. How bad? Jasmine's been having an affair. I walked in on the guy holding Tyler. Silence for 3 seconds, then, I'll be there by 11. Second call went to Thomas Wright, my best friend from the service. We'd done 2 tours together, survived some heavy combat, and he'd been through his own brutal divorce 3 years back. He knew this territory. Brother, I need you, I said. Where and when? My place. 1100 hours. I'm there. They both showed up right on time. Magnus walked in carrying his laptop bag, took one look at me and said, You look like hell. I feel worse. Thomas clapped me on the shoulder. Tell us everything. So I did. Every detail from walking through that door to throwing them both out. Magnus sat at my kitchen table taking notes on his laptop while Thomas paced back and forth, getting angrier with every sentence. When I finished, Magnus looked up. First question, is Tyler yours biologically? Jasmine says yes. Says the affair started after he was born. Do you believe her? I thought about it. Ran the timeline in my head. Yeah. I was home 10 months ago on leave. She got pregnant right before I deployed. Kevin's only been in the picture a few months, according to what she said. We're getting a paternity test anyway, Magnus said flatly. Non-negotiable. Thomas stopped pacing. Agreed. Cover every base. Magnus kept his eyes on me. Second question, and I have to ask this. Do you want to try to save the marriage? I laughed. It came out bitter and harsh. Are you serious? I have to ask. Some guys, even after... No. We're done. Finished. I want a divorce, and I want full custody of Tyler. Magnus nodded slowly. That's going to be a fight. Mothers usually get primary custody, especially with infants. She abandoned him, I said. She left him here with me when she walked out that door. Did you tell her to leave? Yes, but she still left her infant son. That's abandonment in my book. Thomas spoke up. What about the other guy, Kevin? What about him? You going to press charges for the assault? I frowned. I didn't assault him. You grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against a wall. He could claim assault. Let him try, I said. He was in my house uninvited, holding my child. I had every right to remove him. Magnus held up a hand. Legally, Daniel, Thomas has a point. You could face charges, but more importantly, Jasmine could use it against you in the custody battle. Paint you as violent and unstable. That made me pause. My jaw tightened. So what do I do? You do everything by the book from here on out, Magnus said. No more confrontations. No more threats. We document everything, build our case, and destroy them legally, methodically. No mistakes. That's not enough, I said quietly. Magnus and Thomas exchanged looks. What do you mean? Thomas asked. I mean, I want them to suffer, really suffer. I want Kevin to lose everything. His job, his reputation, his peace of mind. I want Jasmine to regret every single choice she made. And I want to do it in a way that's completely legal and completely devastating. Magnus leaned back in his chair. I'm your attorney, so I have to tell you to be careful, but I'm also your brother. He met my eyes. And as your brother, I'll help you make them pay. Over the next 7 days, I became a detective. Magnus had given me clear instructions. Gather evidence, document everything, build an unassailable case, so that's exactly what I did. First thing, I hired a private investigator. Her name was Diane Clarkson, and she specialized in infidelity cases. She was expensive, but Magnus assured me she was worth every penny. Within 3 days, Diane had a complete dossier on Kevin Sanders. We met at a coffee shop downtown. She slid a folder across the table. Kevin Sanders, 34 years old, marketing manager at a tech startup downtown, and here's the interesting part, he's got a girlfriend. I looked up. A girlfriend? Riley Nguyen, 28, works in graphic design, and she has no idea Kevin's sleeping with your wife. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Kevin's juggling 2 women? At least 2, Diane said. I pulled phone records using the passwords you gave me from your shared plan with Jasmine. Hundreds of texts between her and Kevin. Photos, videos, everything you need to prove the affair. She pulled out printed copies. I flipped through them, my hand steady even though rage was building behind my ribs. Messages talking about when I'd be deployed. Photos of them together at restaurants. Hotel receipts. But the financial records, Diane said, that's where it gets really good. She showed me bank statements. Charges at expensive restaurants I'd never been to. A hotel in Boulder. A $500 charge at a jewelry store. This is joint account money, I said slowly. Your money, Diane corrected. Your military pay going straight into that account, and she's been spending it on her affair while you were deployed. The rage burned hotter. Can we use this? Absolutely. Dissipation of marital assets. Magnus will destroy her with it in court. I closed the folder. What about Kevin's job? What about it? Does his company have a morals clause? Code of conduct? Diane smiled slowly. I'll find out. Meanwhile, Jasmine had filed an emergency motion for temporary custody of Tyler. Claimed I was unstable and violent. Magnus filed a counter motion the same day, arguing she'd abandoned Tyler and was an unfit mother. The hearing was set for 2 weeks out. In the meantime, I had Tyler full-time. Jasmine got supervised visitation twice a week. She hated it. I could tell from the texts she sent, bouncing between apologetic and accusatory. Daniel, please, we need to talk about this like adults. You can't keep Tyler from me. I'm his mother. You're being cruel and vindictive. This isn't about us, it's about our son. I didn't respond to a single one. Magnus told me not to. Every text she sent was just more evidence. At the end of the second week, Diane walked into Magnus's office where I was reviewing custody documents. She dropped a bombshell. Kevin Sanders is married. I looked up. What? He's married. Has been for 6 years. Wife's name is Clarice Sanders. She's a teacher. They don't have kids, but they've been trying according to her social media. I sat back slowly, processing this. So, Riley was his girlfriend on the side? Looks like it. Kevin's a serial cheater. Jasmine's not special. She's just another conquest. Thomas, who'd been sitting quietly in the corner, let out a low whistle. This guy's a piece of work. Magnus smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. This changes everything. We're not just destroying Kevin's affair, we're burning down his entire life. Magnus convinced me that I had to be the one to tell Clarice Sanders about Kevin's infidelity, face to face with evidence in hand. It'll carry more weight coming from you, he said. Another victim, not just an attorney. And we need her cooperation if we're going to completely destroy Kevin. So on Saturday afternoon, I drove to the Sanders house in the suburbs. It was one of those cookie-cutter developments where all the houses look basically the same. Nice lawns, two-car garages, the kind of neighborhood where people wave to each other and nobody expects their world to fall apart. I knocked on the door and waited. Clarice answered. Blonde, mid-30s, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweater. She looked friendly, normal, like someone who had no idea her entire life was about to change. "Can I help you?" she asked. "Mrs. Sanders? My name is Daniel Garcia. I need to talk to you about your husband." Her smile faded. "Is Kevin okay? Did something happen? Can I come in? This isn't a conversation for the doorstep." She hesitated, studying my face. Then she stepped aside. "Okay." I walked into their living room. It was neat, decorated with vacation photos. Kevin and Clarice on a beach somewhere, both smiling, both looking happy. The perfect couple, the perfect life, all a lie. Clarice sat on the edge of the couch, nervous. "What's this about?" I sat across from her, folder in hand. No point in dragging it out. "Your husband has been having an affair with my wife for the past 4 months. The color drained from her face. That's not true. Kevin wouldn't." "I have proof." I opened the folder, pulled out printed text messages, photos, hotel receipts, laid them all on the coffee table between us. Clarice stared at the evidence. Her hand started shaking. She picked up one of the photos, Kevin and Jasmine at a restaurant, leaning close, holding hands. The timestamp read 6 weeks ago. "This can't be real," she whispered. "It is. And I'm sorry you're finding out this way, but you deserve to know the truth." She looked up at me, tears already streaming down her face. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because Kevin destroyed my family and he needs to face real consequences, and because you deserve better than a husband who cheats on you." She set the photo down carefully, like it might shatter. "How long have you known?" "A week and a half. I came home from deployment and found Kevin in my house holding my infant son." "Oh God." She put her face in her hands. I waited, gave her time to process. I remembered that feeling, that moment when everything you thought you knew just collapses. It wasn't comfortable watching someone else go through it, but it was necessary. After a few minutes, she looked up. Her face had changed, harder now, resolved. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I want Kevin to face real consequences. I want him to lose everything, the way I lost everything. And I think you want the same thing." Clarice wiped her eyes. Her jaw was set. "You're right. I do." 3 days later, the custody hearing hit like a sledgehammer. Jasmine showed up with her attorney, Leslie Parker, who had a reputation for being aggressive. She went on the attack immediately, painting me as an unstable, violent veteran. "Mr. Garcia assaulted Mr. Sanders in his own home," Leslie said, standing before Judge Albert McKinley, an older man who looked like he'd seen everything. "He grabbed Mr. Sanders by the throat and threatened to break his bones. This is not a man who should have unsupervised access to an infant." Magnus stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Garcia came home from a 9-month deployment to find a strange man in his house, holding his newborn son. His reaction was that of any father protecting his child. He didn't injure Mr. Sanders. He simply removed him from the home. By grabbing him by the throat," Leslie shot back. "By physically escorting a trespasser out, yes," Magnus said calmly. Meanwhile, Ms. Garcia abandoned her 3-month-old infant to follow her lover out the door. "Ms. Garcia left because she feared for her safety," Leslie said. "Then why didn't she take Tyler with her?" Magnus asked. "If she genuinely feared Mr. Garcia, why would she leave her baby alone with him?" I saw Judge McKinley's eyebrows go up slightly. The hearing lasted 2 hours. Jasmine testified, crying, talking about how I'd scared her, how I'd been distant and angry since coming home. I testified about walking in on the betrayal, about her abandoning Tyler, about the money she'd spent on her affair. Judge McKinley's voice was flat when he delivered the ruling. Temporary primary custody goes to Mr. Garcia. Ms. Garcia will have supervised visitation twice weekly, pending divorce proceedings. Jasmine looked like I'd slapped her. Leslie put a hand on her arm, whispered something. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, just stood, shook Magnus's hand, and walked out. Over the next week, Diane kept working. She confirmed Kevin's company had a strict ethics policy, morals clause included. Having an affair with a deployed soldier's wife? That definitely qualified. But I wanted more than Kevin getting fired. I wanted him exposed, humiliated. Diane reached out to Riley Nguyen, Kevin's ex-girlfriend, explained the whole situation. Kevin's marriage to Clarice, the affair with Jasmine, everything. Riley was more than happy to help. She'd suspected Kevin was cheating but couldn't prove it. Now she had all the proof she needed. Riley did something brilliant. She wrote a detailed post on a local community forum, named Kevin, described what he'd done, warned other women about his pattern of deception. She didn't mention me or Jasmine by name, but she included enough details that anyone who knew Kevin would recognize him immediately. Within 24 hours, that post had been shared hundreds of times. Kevin's co-workers saw it, his boss saw it, Clarice's friends saw it. Kevin's life started unraveling in real time. 3 weeks after the custody hearing, my phone rang at 800 hours. Magnus. His voice had that edge to it, excitement mixed with satisfaction. Kevin got fired, he said. What? His company terminated him this morning. Morals clause violation. Plus, apparently several of his female co-workers filed complaints about his behavior toward women in the office. Riley's forum post opened the floodgates. I felt savage satisfaction spread through my chest. Good. It gets better. Clarice filed for divorce yesterday. She's going for everything, the house, half his retirement, alimony. And she's citing adultery, which in their case means he's not getting anything. Damn. Also, Jasmine's attorney called me. Leslie Parker. They want to talk settlement. That surprised me. Why? Because they know they're going to lose. The evidence is overwhelming and Jasmine's behavior looks worse every day. If this goes to trial, she'll lose custody and probably end up paying you spousal support. I want full custody, I said. And I want the house. She can have whatever's left. I'll make it happen. 2 days later, I sat across from Jasmine in Magnus's conference room. Attorneys flanked us on both sides. She looked terrible, thinner than I remembered, dark circles under her eyes, hands shaking. Daniel, she said before the attorneys could start, can we please just talk? Just the two of us? No. Please. I know I hurt you, but nothing. You destroyed our marriage and now we're here to settle the divorce. That's it. Leslie cleared her throat. My client is prepared to offer a settlement. She'll agree to joint custody with you having primary physical custody. She wants to keep the house, and she's asking for child support. Magnus laughed. It was sharp, incredulous. Let me make this very clear. My client is getting full legal and physical custody. Your client abandoned her infant son and spent marital assets on an extramarital affair. She has no leverage here. None. That's ridiculous, Leslie said. No judge will give a father full custody of an infant. Judge McKinley already gave my client primary custody, Magnus interrupted. And when we go to trial, and we will go to trial if necessary, I will present evidence of your client's infidelity, her financial misconduct, her abandonment of Tyler, and her complete unsuitability as a primary parent. She'll be lucky to get supervised visitation. Jasmine's face crumpled. You can't take my son away from me. I looked at her, really looked at her, this woman I'd loved for 10 years, and I felt nothing. You took him away from yourself, I said quietly. The moment you brought Kevin into our home, into our bed, you chose him over Tyler, over me, over our family. This is just the consequence of that choice. I made a mistake, she whispered. No, a mistake is forgetting to lock the door. What you did was deliberate, calculated betrayal, and now you're paying for it. The negotiation lasted another hour. The outcome was inevitable. Jasmine agreed to give me full custody, to move out of the house, and to accept minimal visitation rights. In exchange, I agreed not to pursue spousal support or go after her publicly. Magnus wanted to fight for more, but I didn't need it. I had Tyler. I had the house. I had my dignity. When we signed the papers, Jasmine was crying. I didn't care. That evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. Daniel, it's Clarice Sanders. Can we meet? We arranged to meet the next morning. Same coffee shop where I'd first met with Diane. Clarice looked different when she walked in. Harder. More resolved. She sat down across from me and didn't waste time. Kevin's trying to hide assets, she said. He moved money to an offshore account before I filed for divorce. My attorney found out, but we don't have enough evidence to prove it yet. Why are you telling me this? Because your wife helped him. My blood went cold. What? Jasmine knew about the account. She helped him set it up, gave him advice on how to hide money from you during the divorce. The rage came back. White hot. How do you know? I found emails. Kevin's an idiot. He didn't delete anything. Jasmine gave him step-by-step instructions on hiding assets. She was planning this. I forced myself to breathe. Do you have copies of those emails? I do. And I'm willing to share them with your attorney if you help me get what Kevin owes me. Done. Clarice slid a folder across the table. I opened it. Read the first email. Jasmine's words stared back at me, clinical and calculated, explaining exactly how to move money offshore without triggering reporting requirements. She hadn't just betrayed me. She'd planned to rob me blind while doing it. The next afternoon, Clarice walked into Magnus's office carrying a manila folder thick with printed emails. I was already there, sitting in one of Magnus's leather chairs, Tyler asleep in his carrier beside me. Clarice set the folder on Magnus's desk. Everything's in there, emails, text messages, account information, all of it. Magnus opened the folder and started reading. His expression darkened with each page he turned. After 5 minutes, he looked up. This is fraud, he said flatly. Clear, documented fraud and conspiracy to commit fraud. Can we use it? I asked. I signed that settlement 2 days ago. Fraud vitiates everything, Magnus said. If one party commits fraud during settlement negotiations, the entire agreement can be vacated. We'll renegotiate from scratch. He was already pulling up a document template on his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. I'm drafting a motion to reopen the settlement right now. Emergency hearing. We'll cite fraud and request immediate relief. Clarice leaned forward. How long will that take? Judge McKinley's clerk owes me a favor. I'll have this filed within the hour, and I'm betting we'll have a hearing by Wednesday. He was right. McKinley's clerk called back 30 minutes later, hearing scheduled for Wednesday afternoon. Clarice stood to leave. Thank you, Daniel. My attorney will coordinate with Magnus on the offshore account investigation. We'll get what he owes you, I said. After she left, Magnus turned to me. Wednesday's going to be explosive. Jasmine has no defense against this evidence, and McKinley won't take kindly to discovering he was deceived. Good. I spent the next 2 days taking care of Tyler. At 3 months old, he was blissfully unaware of the chaos surrounding him. There was something comforting about the simple routines, feeding, changing, holding him while he slept against my chest. You ever notice how babies don't care about your problems? Tyler didn't know his mother had betrayed me, didn't know she'd tried to rob me blind. He just wanted to be fed and held and loved. It kept me grounded. Tuesday evening, Thomas stopped by with takeout, Thai food, my favorite. He stayed to help with Tyler's bedtime routine, handling the diaper change while I warmed a bottle. You okay with how far this has gone? Thomas asked, carefully fastening Tyler's onesie. More than okay, I said. Jasmine and Kevin made their choices. Now they're facing real consequences. That's exactly what they deserve. Thomas nodded approvingly. Some people need to learn the hard way that actions have consequences. Wednesday afternoon came fast. I walked into McKinley's courtroom with Magnus, Tyler safe at home with a babysitter Thomas had recommended. Jasmine sat at the opposite table with Leslie looking pale and frightened. Her hands were shaking again. Judge McKinley entered, and we all stood. Be seated, he said. settling into his chair. Mr. Garcia, I understand you're seeking to vacate the settlement agreement we approved less than 48 hours ago. This had better be good. Magnus stood. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Garcia committed fraud during settlement negotiations. She helped Kevin Sanders hide assets from his wife Clarice and planned to hide assets from my client during their divorce. He presented the emails. Leslie shot to her feet. Your Honor, these emails lack proper context. My client was merely discussing hypothetical scenarios with Mr. Sanders, not actually planning fraud. These aren't hypothetical, Magnus interrupted, producing more documents. Bank statements showing transfers Ms. Garcia made to accounts Mr. Garcia didn't know existed. Text messages between Ms. Garcia and Mr. ADC Sanders explicitly discussing keeping things hidden from Daniel, and testimony from Mrs. Sanders's forensic accountant detailing the offshore account structure Ms. Garcia helped create. Jasmine's face had gone white. That's not, I didn't. Your Honor, Leslie tried again. The emails are being taken out of context. I never actually hid any money, Jasmine burst out. Her voice cracked. I was just discussing possibilities. Even Leslie looked uncomfortable with how weak that sounded. McKinley held up a hand for silence. He read through the evidence. 15 minutes passed. The only sound was pages turning. Finally, he looked up. His expression was stone. Ms. Garcia, he said quietly. In my 30 years on this bench, I have seen considerable dishonesty. But your actions are exceptional. You not only committed fraud against your husband, but you actively helped another party commit fraud against his spouse. Jasmine opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I'm vacating the settlement agreement entirely, McKinley continued. Full custody to Mr. Garcia. Zero visitation rights for Ms. Garcia until she can prove herself capable of honest dealings. Your Honor, please. Jasmine's face had gone white as paper. I'm not finished. McKinley's voice could have cut glass. I'm ordering you to pay all of Mr. Garcia's attorney fees and court costs, and I'm referring this matter to the district attorney's office for potential criminal charges. Fraud. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Jasmine collapsed into her chair, sobbing. Leslie tried to object, but McKinley just shook his head and dismissed us. Outside on the courthouse steps, Magnus turned to me. That's as close to complete victory as you'll get in family court. I watched Jasmine stumble toward her car, still crying. I felt no sympathy, only cold satisfaction. Justice was being served. But I wasn't finished yet. Over the next 6 weeks, I watched Kevin Sanders' life disintegrate completely. Clarice's attorney, working with Magnus and a forensic accountant, traced the offshore account Kevin had created. They proved Kevin moved over $80,000 in marital assets, money from his and Clarice's joint savings, plus chunks of his retirement accounts, trying to hide it before the divorce proceedings. The court ordered Kevin to return every dollar, plus penalties. Kevin claimed he couldn't access the money immediately. Account restrictions, he said. The judge didn't buy it, held him in contempt, threatened jail time until Kevin produced the funds. Kevin somehow came up with the money, had to borrow from his parents and siblings to satisfy the court order, put himself deep in debt to his own family. I wondered how those conversations went. Bet they weren't pleasant. Clarice's divorce finalized in early May. She got the house, the car, 60% of Kevin's remaining retirement funds, 3 years of alimony payments. Kevin was left with almost nothing. Riley and Nguyen testified during the proceedings about Kevin's pattern of manipulation and deception with multiple women. The judge considered her testimony during asset division. Apparently, it didn't help Kevin's case. Magnus kept me updated on everything. Each piece of news brought grim satisfaction. Meanwhile, criminal charges moved forward against Jasmine. The district attorney's office reviewed McKinley's referral and decided Jasmine's actions warranted prosecution. Conspiracy to commit fraud. She hired a criminal defense attorney, draining what little savings she had left. Then Leslie Parker withdrew as Jasmine's family law attorney. Cited irreconcilable differences. Left Jasmine scrambling to find new representation. Jasmine's parents were reportedly furious. She was living with them after leaving my house, and the criminal charges put additional strain on that situation. I heard through Magnus that her mother wasn't speaking to her. Good. Thomas visited regularly during this period, helped with Tyler, provided moral support. The kid was growing fast, 4 months old now, starting to smile and make sounds that almost resembled laughter. Late May, Thomas mentioned something he'd heard through military channels. Word about Jasmine spread through the base community, he said, feeding Tyler a bottle while I cleaned dishes. Other military spouses have basically ostracized her, won't associate with someone who betrayed a deployed soldier. I didn't cause that social exile, but I didn't feel bad about it either. Actions have consequences. Jasmine was learning that the hard way. Early June, Diane called with a final update. Kevin filed for bankruptcy last week, she said. Couldn't pay his debts, attorney fees, and alimony obligations on his call center income. The filing's public record. Riley saw it, Diane continued. She shared it on that community forum where she originally exposed him. Added an update that Kevin lost everything due to his own choices. I thanked Diane and paid her final invoice. Her work was done. Mid-June, I met Clarice for coffee one last time. She looked different, lighter. The hard edge from our previous meetings had softened into something calmer. I'm moving on, she told me. Sold the house I got in the divorce. Too many bad memories. Bought a smaller place in Fort Collins. That's good, I said. I'm seeing someone new. A high school teacher named George Harrison. He treats me with respect, kindness, all the things Kevin never did. Clarice reached across the table, squeezed my hand briefly. Thank you, Daniel, for giving me the courage to leave, to fight for what I deserved. You did the hard work yourself, I said. Before we parted, Clarice mentioned she'd heard Kevin was living in his brother's basement in Colorado Springs, working part-time at a call center, barely making rent payments to his brother. His reputation's so damaged, she said. No legitimate marketing company will hire him. I felt no sympathy. Only satisfaction that Kevin's consequences matched his actions. That evening, Magnus called. News about Jasmine, he said. She accepted a plea deal on the fraud charges. 2 years probation, community service, restitution payments, avoided jail time. Where is she now? Took a receptionist job in Kansas near her parents' house, living in their basement. She's seeing Tyler once monthly for supervised visits per the custody order. Magnus paused. You satisfied with how everything turned out? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Tyler was asleep in his crib down the hall. My son, safe and healthy. The house was quiet, peaceful. Mine, Kevin, was bankrupt, living in his brother's basement, working a dead-end job. His marriage destroyed, his reputation ruined, his future limited. Jasmine was facing criminal probation, living with furious parents, scraping by on a receptionist's salary, seeing Tyler once a month under supervision. No chance of getting custody back. Both of them had lost everything. Yeah, I told Magnus. I'm satisfied. Not happy exactly. Nothing can undo the betrayal. But satisfied that they both faced real, permanent consequences for destroying my family. Now I can focus on building something better. 6 months after the divorce finalized, December arrived with snow and new routines. Tyler was 9 months old now. More active, more aware. He'd started crawling, pulling himself up on furniture, babbling sounds that almost resembled words. Every day brought something new. A tooth breaking through, a laugh at something I did, that look of recognition when I walked into the room. My leave from the Army was ending. I had a decision to make. Re-enlist for another tour, or transition to civilian life after 15 years of service. I talked it through with Magnus one night over beers at his place. What's holding you back? He asked. 15 years, I said. That's my entire adult life. The Army's all I know. That's not true. You know how to be a father, a good one. Tyler needs that more than the Army needs another staff sergeant. Magnus was right. Tyler needed a present father, not one who deployed for months at a time, who missed birthdays and first steps and all the moments that mattered. I talked to Thomas next. He'd left the service 3 years ago and never looked back. Best decision I ever made, Thomas said. You've got skills, brother. Leadership, discipline, project management. Defense contractors eat that up. You'll land on your feet. I made the decision in January. After 15 years of honorable service, I left the Army. It felt strange at first. No more formation, no more inspections, no more wearing the uniform that had defined me for so long. But every time I looked at Tyler, crawling across the living room floor, laughing at the dog next door through the window, I knew I'd made the right choice. I used my GI Bill to finish my bachelor's degree in business administration. Online courses, mostly. I'd do the work during Tyler's nap times, late at night after he went to bed. It wasn't easy juggling coursework and full-time parenting, but I'd survived worse. By spring, I completed the degree. Started applying for jobs with defense contractors who valued military experience. Program analyst positions mostly. Work that used my skills without requiring me to leave Tyler for months at a time. Sentinel Defense Solutions offered me a position in April. Program analyst, working remotely from home with occasional travel. The pay was actually better than my military salary, and the benefits were solid. The arrangement worked perfectly. I could do my job during Tyler's nap times and after bedtime. Be there for every meal, every diaper change, every moment Tyler needed me. Tyler's first birthday arrived in June. I threw a small party at the house. Magnus came, Thomas, a few other close friends who'd supported me throughout the divorce. Nothing elaborate, just cake, burgers on the grill, Tyler smashing his face into a slice of chocolate cake while everyone laughed. Jasmine had requested to attend. Sent an email through her attorney asking if she could be there for Tyler's first birthday. I denied the request. It fell outside her scheduled monthly supervised visit, and Magnus confirmed I had full discretion. She didn't get to show up and play happy mother after what she'd done. That privilege was gone. During the party, Thomas pulled me aside. "My cousin Annie," he said. "Annie Robinson. She's a pediatric nurse at the Children's Hospital. Recently became single after ending a long-term relationship." I gave him a look. "What are you doing?" "I think you two would get along well. She's kind, smart, good with kids. You should meet her." "I'm not ready to date," I said flatly. "Don't know if I'll ever trust someone again after what Jasmine did." Thomas held up his hands. "Just saying, when you're ready, no pressure." But the seed was planted, whether I wanted it or not. 2 weeks later, Tyler developed a persistent ear infection. I took him to the pediatrician for a routine checkup. His regular doctor was unavailable, so we saw nurse practitioner Annie Robinson instead. Annie was in her early 30s. Warm brown eyes, gentle manner with Tyler. He usually cried during doctor visits, hated having his ears examined, hated the cold stethoscope. But with Annie, he actually smiled. She examined Tyler's ear carefully, explained what she was seeing in terms I could understand, prescribed antibiotics, talked me through managing infant ear infections, when to worry, when it's normal. I found myself appreciating both her competence and her kindness. As we were leaving, Annie mentioned, "You're Thomas Wright's friend, right? He said you might bring Tyler in." I realized immediately what Thomas had done. Matchmaking. Transparent as hell. I felt awkward. Yeah, Thomas." Annie laughed. Not mean, just genuinely amused. "He means well, even though his methods aren't exactly subtle." She gave me her card. "If Tyler's ear infection doesn't improve in 3 days, call the office directly and ask for me." Tyler's ear infection improved, but I found myself thinking about Annie over the next few weeks. Not romantically, exactly. Just appreciating that someone kind and genuine existed in the world. August. I ran into Annie at the grocery store. I was shopping with Tyler in the cart seat, and there she was in the produce section, picking through avocados. "Daniel?" "Hey," she smiled when she saw us. "How's Tyler's ear?" "Good. The antibiotics worked." We talked for 20 minutes right there in produce. Easy conversation about nothing important. Her work at the hospital, Colorado weather, the challenges of grocery shopping with an infant who wanted to grab everything. Before we parted, Annie said, "There's a food truck festival downtown next Saturday. Live music, good food. Would you and Tyler want to go?" I hesitated. "As friends," Annie added quickly. "Not a date. Thomas mentioned you went through a difficult divorce. I just thought it might be nice. Get out, enjoy the weather." "Yeah," I said. "That sounds good." Saturday arrived with perfect weather. I met Annie downtown at noon. Tyler in his stroller, sun shining, music drifting from the main stage. We spent 3 hours walking around, tried different foods, Thai, Mexican, Korean barbecue, listened to a bluegrass band, then a jazz trio. Tyler loved it, bouncing in his stroller, clapping his hands. Tyler clearly liked Annie, reached for her several times, laughed at her funny faces. She knew how to engage with him without being overbearing. The afternoon felt easy, comfortable, natural. Driving home that evening, Tyler asleep in his car seat, I realized something. For the first time since Jasmine's betrayal, I could imagine trusting someone again. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. With someone like Annie, who seemed genuinely kind and honest. Annie and I kept it casual through the fall. Friends, just friends. Usually with Tyler present, playgrounds, coffee shops, easy afternoons where nothing felt forced or complicated. Annie never asked about my divorce beyond what Thomas already told her. I appreciated that more than she probably knew. No prying questions, no subtle fishing for details. Just respect for my boundaries. By October, we were seeing each other twice a week. Playground visits where Tyler could burn off energy, while Annie and I sat on benches talking about work, life, nothing heavy. Coffee shops where Tyler could have a muffin and make a mess while we actually finished entire conversations. Weekend hikes with Tyler in a carrier on my back. Annie walking beside us, pointing out birds and wildflowers. It felt normal, safe. November brought a hike up to Chautauqua Park. Tyler bouncing happily on my back, babbling at the trees. Annie walking beside me, hands in her jacket pockets, face tilted toward the sun. I was engaged 2 years ago, she said suddenly. I looked over at her. Yeah? Another nurse at the hospital. We'd been together 4 years. Planned the wedding, picked the venue, sent out save the dates. She paused. Then 6 months before the wedding, he admitted he didn't actually want children. That's a hell of a thing to spring on someone 6 months out. Right? And it wasn't like we hadn't talked about it. We'd talked about kids since year 1. I was very clear that I wanted a family. She shook her head. But when it got real, when we were actually planning a future, he panicked and admitted the truth. He'd been telling me what I wanted to hear. I'm sorry. Don't be. I called off the wedding. Broke up with him. It hurt like hell, but we wanted fundamentally different futures. Better to find out before the wedding than after. I shifted Tyler's weight on my back. That took guts. So did what you did, Annie said, looking at me. Thomas told me some of it. The affair, the custody battle. But I'd like to hear it from you if you're willing to share. So I told her. Not everything. That would take hours. But the important parts. Walking through my door and finding Kevin holding Tyler. Jasmine's betrayal. The systematic destruction I'd orchestrated legally and methodically until both their lives collapsed. Annie listened without judgment. Didn't flinch, didn't offer platitudes. When I finished, she said, "You protected Tyler. You fought for what mattered. I don't blame you for that." Not at all. Something loosened in my chest. Relief, maybe. Or recognition that someone actually understood. December rolled in, nearly a year after my divorce finalized. Annie invited Tyler and me to her family's Christmas gathering. No pressure, she said, but my parents host every year. Siblings, cousins, chaos. If you'd rather not, I completely understand. I'd like that, I said. And I meant it. Annie's family welcomed us like we belonged there. Her parents, warm and genuine. Her siblings, 3 brothers who immediately started showing Tyler how to build with blocks. Extended family who treated us like old friends instead of strangers. Annie's mother, Elizabeth Hartwell, pulled me aside while Tyler was occupied with Annie's youngest nephew. Annie seems happier than she's been in years, she said quietly. She's easy to be around. You're good for her, and she's clearly good for Tyler. Elizabeth smiled. That little boy adores her. I watched Annie across the room, laughing at something her brother said, Tyler on her hip pointing at Christmas lights. My feelings had moved beyond friendship. I knew that now. Deeper, more complicated, scarier. but real. New Year's Eve. Magnus hosted a party. I brought Tyler and Annie. Properly my date this time. Not just friends. At midnight, everyone counted down. Champagne glasses raised, noise and celebration. I kissed Annie for the first time while Tyler slept in a portable crib in Magnus's guest room. The kiss felt right. In a way, nothing had felt right in a long time. January. We started dating officially. Slowly. Carefully. Both of us had been hurt before, and I had Tyler to consider. Annie was patient, understanding, never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Her relationship with Tyler developed naturally. By February, Tyler reached for Annie when she arrived, calling her Annie in his toddler voice that made everything sound adorable. Jasmine's monthly supervised visits continued. Tyler showed less interest each time. At 18 months old, he didn't really know Jasmine as his mother. The visits were awkward, strained. Jasmine trying too hard, Tyler pulling away, wanting to go home. I didn't force anything. Tyler would make his own decisions about Jasmine when he was older. March brought a call from Magnus. Jasmine's attorney, her third one since Leslie withdrew, contacted me. They're requesting modification of custody to allow unsupervised visits. Jasmine completed probation and community service. What do you think? I asked. Legally, she might have grounds. She completed her sentence, maintained stable employment. Judge McKinley might be willing to modify. I considered carefully. What's the process? Custody evaluation. Court-appointed psychologist assesses both parents, makes recommendations. Let's do it. The evaluation took 6 weeks. Multiple sessions, interviews, home visits where a psychologist named Dr. Andrea Callahan observed me with Tyler, asked questions about routines and discipline and attachment. In May, Dr. Callahan submitted her report. Custody remains with Daniel, but allowed Jasmine unsupervised visits of 4 hours every other week. Judge McKinley adopted the recommendation. Jasmine's first unsupervised visit happened late May. She picked up Tyler, returned him 4 hours later, on time. No incident. Did you have fun with Jasmine? I asked Tyler afterward. Tyler shrugged, more interested in the toy truck Annie gave him than discussing his mother. That told me everything I needed to know. Summer came. Annie, Tyler, and I went camping in Rocky Mountain National Park. Quiet evening. Sunset painting the mountains gold and orange. Tyler playing with pine cones nearby. I'm falling in love with you, Annie said quietly. I turned to look at her. She met my eyes, vulnerable but steady. I've been in love with you for months, I admitted. Just afraid to say it. Afraid to be vulnerable again. I know, Annie said. After what Jasmine did, I understand. But I'm not her, Daniel. I won't hurt you like that. I know you won't. We talked about our future. Carefully, tentatively, but honestly. What we wanted, where we were headed, what it might look like if this kept going. Sitting there watching the sunset with Annie beside me and Tyler laughing nearby, I realized something. I was genuinely happy. Not just satisfied, not just stable, actually happy. For the first time in 2 years. And I credited Annie for that. For showing me trust and love were still possible after betrayal. 2 years after meeting Annie at Tyler's doctor appointment, I proposed. Weekend trip to Estes Park. Tyler stayed with Magnus. Just Annie and me hiking near Dream Lake. I asked her on a rocky outcrop overlooking the valley, mountains stretching forever in every direction. She said yes, immediately. Crying, laughing, kissing me. 4 months later we married. September wedding. Small ceremony at a mountain lodge. 30 guests. Family, close friends. Magnus stood as my best man. Thomas walked Annie down the aisle since her father passed years earlier. Tyler, 4 years old now, took his ring-bearer role seriously. Carried the rings down the aisle with intense concentration that made everyone smile. The reception was intimate, joyful. Magnus gave a toast. I'm proud of you, Daniel. You rebuilt your life from complete destruction into something beautiful. Annie, Tyler, this family you've created, it's what you deserve. I raised my glass to my brother, to the people who stood by me. Later, Annie told me Jasmine sent a card. She congratulated you on the wedding, Annie said quietly. Said she's happy you found someone who deserves you. Apologized again for everything she destroyed. Where's the card? I threw it away. The past doesn't deserve space in our present. I kissed Annie. Thank you. We bought a house. Different neighborhood from where I lived with Jasmine. 4 bedrooms. Yard where Tyler could play. No memories haunting the walls. Annie got pregnant in December. Gabriel was born the following July. Tyler adored his baby brother immediately. Constantly wanted to hold Gabriel, help with feedings, show Gabriel his toys. Gentle, buddy, I'd remind him. Gabriel's still little. I know, Dad, I'm being careful. Jasmine's visitation continued every other week. Tyler's interest remained minimal. He went because I said he had to, but Tyler clearly considered Annie his real mother. By his 5th birthday, Tyler called Annie Mom. During one custody exchange, Jasmine heard Tyler say, "Bye, Mom," to Annie. Jasmine's face crumpled, but she didn't protest. She knew she had no right. I felt no sympathy. Jasmine made her choices. This was the consequence. 5 years after the divorce, my life was unrecognizable, in the best possible way. Tyler, 7 years old, thrived in 2nd grade. Gabriel, 2 years old, was energetic and curious. Annie was the partner I didn't know I needed. We had traditions: Sunday morning pancakes, Friday movie nights, annual camping trips, stability. Tyler never had during the chaos of my first marriage. I stayed in touch with Clarice occasionally through social media. She married George Harrison 2 years ago, seemed genuinely happy in Fort Collins. Kevin remarried briefly, according to Clarice, but that marriage fell apart within a year. Kevin remained in Colorado Springs, freelance marketing, barely surviving financially. His reputation never recovered from Riley's forum post. The bankruptcy filing closed doors throughout the industry. Jasmine completed probation, still worked as a receptionist in Kansas, lived alone now. Her parents got tired of her living in their basement. She saw Tyler monthly, but their relationship remained distant, superficial. Magnus mentioned during family dinner that Jasmine asked about modifying custody again. More time with Tyler. No, I said without hesitation. She has the visitation she has. She should be grateful for that much. Magnus nodded. I'll tell her attorney. Later that night, Annie asked me privately, "Do you ever regret it? How hard you went after Jasmine and Kevin? Destroying their lives so thoroughly?" I looked at her. Not for a second. Really? They made deliberate choices to betray me. I made deliberate choices to ensure they faced permanent consequences. I protected Tyler, protected our future, made sure they couldn't hurt anyone else the same way. Annie squeezed my hand. Some people say you should have taken the high road. The high road doesn't work against people without honor. I took the road that led to justice. One evening, Tyler asked me what I learned during my time in the Army. I thought carefully. Fight for what matters. Protect your people. Never let someone take what's yours without a fight. Like in war? Like in life, buddy. That principle applies everywhere, not just military service. Tyler nodded seriously. I'll remember that, Dad. Tyler, 7. Gabriel, 2. I reflected on how much changed since that terrible afternoon when I walked through my door to find Kevin holding Tyler. I was happier now than I ever was with Jasmine, because my life with Annie was built on honesty, trust, genuine partnership, everything my first marriage lacked. Jasmine still sent cards for Tyler's birthday every year. Apologies. Explanations. Annie intercepted them. I threw them away unread. Jasmine's regret wasn't my problem anymore. Kevin tried reaching out 3 years ago. Social media apology, hoped I found peace. I blocked him without responding. Some people don't deserve attention, don't deserve forgiveness. Saturday afternoon, our backyard. Tyler and Gabriel played together. Tyler patiently helping Gabriel stack blocks, both of them laughing when the tower fell. Annie sat beside me, reading a book in the afternoon sun. I watched my sons, my wife, this life I built from ashes. This was the only revenge that truly mattered. Living well, loving fully, proving I was stronger than anything Jasmine and Kevin did to me. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.